Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I actually wanted to kind of boil things down for you guys and do my in a rush tutorial. So we're full beat. I mean, I don't have lashes on and it's not over the top on the eyes, but I have enough going on that I feel comfortable going into any setting and doing whatever I need to do. And it's 10 minutes or less. So if you're in a rush in the morning, you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to your morning routine, but you still want to look like you put in some effort, this is going to be my routine for that kind of look. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe because I upload somewhere between 3 and 5 videos a week, and subscribing is going to be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to see how we got here, stay tuned. So I want to start by prefacing that this is not a challenge. I'm not going to have a timer on the screen. I'm not trying to 10-minute makeup challenge. This is just, if you are someone who has 10 minutes to get out the door, how do you get from 0 to 1,000 with little to no time? So we're going to be going through a super quick routine, something that I do regularly when I want to look awake and alive and not necessarily full beat glam, but there's definitely some glam aspects. So starting with the Perricone MD Instant Blur Primer. This is something I tried earlier in the month and I've really been enjoying it. What I'll do with this is I will take it on the little applicator it comes with, and I will just press this into the areas of the face where I am the most porous. I feel like this video, I'm gonna try not to overly edit it. I'm gonna, in theory, attempt to make it one single take so that you guys can see genuinely no extra time, no extra nothing. This is what we do. Following that up with the Farsali liquid powder. The other product from Dr. Perricone is more for blurring, whereas this is going to be more mattifying. You guys know I am very oily, so for me, really finding those products that mattify the skin, especially now that I'm living in Florida, really help to keep the makeup in place and allow it to wear beautifully all day. And for foundation, I'm going to use the HD Liquid Coverage Foundation from Catrice. The reason I like this, specifically when I'm in a rush, is it's very thin and liquidy. So taking a couple on the dropper and just dotting it around the face, it blends out super easily. Sorry, my mirror is not in my eyesight. And because it's so thin, I don't actually use a beauty blender to blend it out because that almost takes up a lot of that and moves it around because it's so thin. I'll just take a brush. I'll swirl it a little bit around the face and you'll notice it's not blended. I'm just kind of moving it around to spread it out. And then once I find that I've kind of spread it everywhere, then I will almost press and pat and use the same brush to kind of stipple it into the skin, which is just going to give it a little bit more of a seamless effect. And I know I'm going to have edited that just because it's so long of me just stippling, but honestly, it's been a minute and a half. Going into my Benefit concealer. When I'm going for that quick out the door, I don't want it to be the full-on under-eye triangle. I really just put a tiny bit down and then I pull that into that area. I will take a tiny bit up here and a little down here. You'll also notice I did not shave today, and that was intentional because this is a little bit more of my everyday. I shave on the days I'm heavily filming, or if I have an important meeting or something specific. But for the most part, I mean, I'm not bearded ever, but when I am clean shaven is 1,000% on the, I feel tactful is the only way to put it. It's a very specific time. And you guys will notice that I'm still using the same tool. This is the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe No. 7 complexion brush. I will actually be using this for most of the face today. I will have, I think, 2 or 3 powder brushes as well. But notice how much time you save not looking for brushes and having that one perfect double-sided brush in your arsenal for making everything perfect. Just grab my Laura Mercier setting powder. Switching over to a brush, I'm going to first make sure that the areas that I'm sensitive about creasing, like the forehead and the chin and the sides of the nose, are buffed out. Then taking a small amount of that powder, I'm just going to start pressing that into the areas of the face that I'm concerned about creasing. Then with that same powder, switching to a larger brush. And I've gotten a couple questions as to why I use like 3 powder brushes. They do different things. So I will take quite a bit on this and really press it into the under eye area. Because this one is so much fluffier, I'll really just use this to move whatever powder is left around the face. See how flat this gets? It's almost like using a powder puff to really just move things around. This is gonna pick up any of the powder that I find is settling on the skin or creating like a big powdery mess, and move it onto the areas where I might have missed it and not powdered at all. And then taking a little bit more, I really just make sure that everything is super lightly powdered, and I want a really thin layer of powder over everything. This is the one time where I'm gonna go off camera for a sec. I do at this point, like, because I've just powdered, I would then go change into whatever I'm wearing, and that'll be like probably 2 minutes, but it's not taking away from the makeup time because I don't start my day in what I'm wearing because I end up covered in powder. So I'm gonna go do that off camera. I mean, I'm not actually doing that. I'm just gonna wait the 2 minutes and I'll be right back. All right, so it's been the 2 minutes and I have not done anything. I honestly was scrolling on my phone for a little bit, but at that point I would have changed what I'm wearing. Then going into that same powder brush, we're just gonna sweep everything away. Now, the reason I love this powder and going in with such a thin layer is at this point, I'm gonna take a tiny bit of setting spray over the face just to get rid of any powderiness. I'm gonna take my beauty blender. This is actually not even wet, and I'm just pressing that hydration into the skin. The reason for that is they typically tell you that the biggest rule of makeup is do not put creams over powders. For 99% of products, that is true. However, when you go in with such a thin layer of powder, you moisten it so that there's no like powder sitting on top of the skin, and you find those few products that actually do work well on top of powder. I'm gonna be using the sticks from Beauty For Real. I used these in a first impressions video earlier in the month, and I'm still loving them. These actually work really well on top of powder. You don't need to do powder for them to work well, but they work. So I'm gonna take first the Bronzing Glow, and I'm gonna line the face with that. A little bit under the lip, why not? And because we've been using the same brush, I'm actually gonna continue to use this. So I start by blending out the jaw. Then switching to the concealer side, we blend out the nose contour. At this point, I'll take that first powder brush and I will just stamp down the middle of the nose just to kind of brighten that up a little bit so it doesn't look too harsh of a contour. Don't worry, we'll fix that later. Then I take the forehead contour into the hairline and I'll actually bring it to about here on the forehead. Now you guys know I don't really contour my forehead, but I do like to take bronzer up there just because it really does warm up the perimeter of the face. And then we will stipple the cheek in. So notice I'm pressing and then swirling, but I'm always going in an upward motion because I can brighten and highlight the face. I don't want to drag that down because it will get muddy looking. And now if it looks a little harsh, don't worry, that will all come together, I promise. Then going into the blush of the Blushing Glow, this is Coral Crush. I'm gonna take a little bit of this on the apple of the cheek. And before I blend, I'm going to take the other side of that, which is the highlight side, and we're just going to add a stripe of that to the highest point of the cheek. Once we blend this all out, it'll look a little less crazy, I do promise that. And I'm actually going to blend this over that contour. And you see how this side now looks a lot less stark than the other one did before we added the blush and bronzer. With whatever's left on the brush, take a tiny bit over the nose. Now I mentioned this already that I'm oily, so I do need to set down everything with a powder. This will last long wear, but taking that powder does two things. One, locks it in so it's even more long wearing. And the second thing it does is it veils the product. So you notice how I went heavier? Because of that, I can take my powder brush, press a little bit of powder over it, and that's just going to dull it down a little bit, and make everything just sink into the skin a little bit more. And it's gonna keep it from looking super intense and super overdone. And see how that just kind of blurs everything together, ties it together, and gives it a lot more of that seamless glow. And again, this is that same Laura Mercier powder that I've been using for the entire face. So now at this point you have two different options. The first, if the cheeks are a little understated for you, you could take a tiny bit of a powder bronzer or blush. I'm gonna take a little bit. This is the Trip for Two Duo from Wander Beauty. I'm gonna be taking a tiny bit of this. I'm gonna start with the bronzer shade, and I'm gonna just really intensify that right around the hairline. I'm happy with the jaw, I'm happy with the nose, but I do want a tiny bit more of this warmth and definition just right in this area right here. This is just gonna help to marry everything together. You guys know I love my powders, especially on top of the few creams I do like. And you see how that just kind of warmed it up a little bit. Switching to my blush brush, taking a tiny bit of daiquiri, just gonna top the Beauty For Real blush. Again, you don't have to do both, you can do one or the other, but the biggest trick to making your blush and bronzer last throughout the day is making sure that you layer products that are super long wearing, like the Beauty For Real, on top of something like a powder. Now to add a little bit more glow to the cheeks, I'm gonna take the Supreme Frost in Frozen Peach from Jeffree Star Cosmetics, and I'm gonna take that on a little bit of a fluffier brush, because I do really wanna add that glow to the entire cheek so everything looks a little more glowy and dewy. Whatever's left on the brush, I will just kind of take down the T-zone for a little extra glow. Beautiful. Grabbing a nice fluffy eyeshadow brush, I'm going to take that same bronzer and just throw it into the crease of the eye. I'm actually going to take a little bit of that same bronzer. I have a mirror in my hand and I'm trying to look where I can't see. And just add a little definition to the lower lash. Now you can totally use eyeshadow if you want, but I have noticed that when specifically I'm in a rush, when I go into a powder that is an eyeshadow, like the eyes will be a little too warm or a little too cool and it won't match the face and I'll have to kind of add a lot more colors and finesse a bit more. I notice when I use the same thing that's on the cheeks, it just kind of helps it all to marry together a little bit better so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to be taking that same highlighter shade, Mirror, and I'm just going to pull that across the lid. And I'm going to take that same highlighter, adding a tiny bit of setting spray, and I'm going to brighten the inner corner. One last pass with my blending brush, just to make sure everything looks good. Now the only thing I can't do on camera, because it takes me so much concentration being up in the mirror, is my mascara. So I'm gonna go do that quickly off camera and I'll be right back. All right, mascara is on, so we are just about done. I'm gonna grab a little bit of brow gel. This is tinted, it's from Milk. I've used it a million times because it's like the only brow gel I really grab for anymore. This is like my third jar, and you guys will see why. Fastest, easiest brow ever. I take one little dunk, comb it through my brows, and grab a clean spoolie. Easiest, fastest brows ever. Super lightweight. Last thing we're gonna do is a tiny bit of setting spray and then throwing on a lip. So for lipstick, well, gloss, because I don't really like doing a lipstick when I'm trying in a rush, because the last thing I need to do is mess up. So I'm gonna pull my mirror forward. I'm gonna start with a nude lip liner. This is the Define Lip Pencil from Beauty For Real in Neutral Light. And I have a hand mirror. Why am I making my life so complicated? So I'm just gonna lightly line the lips. Now my lips naturally have a lot of peach in them, so this is actually like the perfect tone for me, but on a day-to-day basis, I don't want my lips to look super peachy. So I'm gonna take Barely There, the hydrating lip plumper from Grande Lips, well, Grande Cosmetics. It's more of like a neutrally brown, which I think on top of the peach is like the perfect Barely There nude lip. So I take a little bit of that in the center of the lips and I work it out. I'll just give that a second to kind of like mattify. At this point, I'd be getting up and walking my way towards the door or getting ready to leave, or in some cases doing my hair, but I recently cut it a lot shorter and I don't know what I'm doing with it, so I kind of just been leaving it. So this is just gonna be finishing touches. I'll grab my mirror, I'll take a look, I'll see what I like, what I don't like. So like right now, I am noticing that the nose doesn't look as nice as I would like. So I'm gonna take my setting powder brush and a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury setting powder. This stuff fixes everything. And I'm just gonna press a little bit of this over the nose, take a little bit of this around the chin, and anywhere else I think I need a little bit of touching up. This powder is like Facetune in a compact. You don't need a lot of it. Like I'm still using a tiny bit on the brush and really just cleaning up anywhere I feel like needs a little extra love. And then one last finish with a long wearing setting spray. This one is from Smashbox, and I'll take a little bit of this, going back into that dry sponge and just pressing that setting spray into the powder, and that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching. By my timing, it took me about 20 minutes to film this, which honestly, like, because of me talking and stopping and going, it did take me longer than it normally does. I could totally do this in and out the door in 10 minutes or less. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below, what are your like go-to products for out the door, something you grab problem? What are some of your go-to products for grab and go, out the door? I mean, this was a full face and it definitely took me not long at all. It was like 10 products, but honestly, if they're right in front of you and you're just going and doing, totally easy to get in and out the door in 10 minutes or less. So thank you guys so much. I will see you in my next video. Bye.